This is crazy. As in a recent article dropped by The Athletic, they have the Toronto Maple Leafs front office ranked near last in confidence surrounding decision making. So we're going to break that crazy article down in this episode, as well as Auston Matthews. He is approaching history and he is poised to have a massive season. And there's a lot to break down today. So we're going to get into all that. Before we do, Darius said it's not a background. He is in Florida. It looks like a Zoom background, but that is a real thing. Just to address that now, because we were talking about it off camera, it looks directly like a fake background. But Darius, there's a lot to go over today. And a hilarious article dropped by The Athletic. It's actually not that funny because Toronto Maple Leafs front office was ranked near last in confidence surrounding decision making, whether that is free agency, trades, and all that. And we have to address it today, especially as we're in the dog days of August. The days are getting longer, and there's not too much crazy things happening. I want to break this down for you, Darius. So the Leafs rank close to bottom in front office confidence, a fan-voted survey done by The Athletic. Do you agree with this ranking? And essentially what it does, it goes in and it says, from the public, the Maple Leafs had a C in building a roster, a D- in managing their cap, a C in draft and development, D+ in trading, C in free agency, and a D+ in vision. According to the survey, which compared the rankings to last year, Toronto fan base is 51% less confident this year, when the public is 53% less confident in the team, and 23% of the fan base is more confident than the public confidence vote. So basically, again, this doesn't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things, other than the fact that the Leafs really have struggled with building not a competitive team, but a team that wins playoff games. And for the first time in a very long time, the confidence among Leafs fans and the general public is not very high in this Toronto Maple Leafs team.
No, I'm not entirely surprised either, based on fan consensus, I guess, because honestly, heading into last year, I think a lot of people had higher hopes than years past because they added guys like Bertuzzi and Domi, and they're like, all right, let's run it back with these tougher players, right? These playoff performers, and see what the Leafs do. And again, we got the same result. So I think heading into this year, where not much has changed in that way, I think the roster's better personally, right? When you look at it top down, I think that heading into next year, they should be better. But a casual fan might not think that, right? So if you're doing a survey, I think the majority of the fan base thinks, you know what, I'm kind of over this experiment, right, that we've been doing for the last 8 years. And the roster is essentially the same on forward, right? Heading into next year, it could potentially be a little bit weaker as it stands right now, too. So I'm not entirely surprised by that. And some of the decision making has been a little puzzling. I do like what they did this offseason, right? Because of, they don't have much wiggle room to work with, right? So I do kind of like what they've done this year. But when you look at it in the bigger picture, they haven't really done much to get a bona fide starter, in goaltending, for example. And again, they're just kind of making little tweaks in certain areas that I think will improve the team, but nothing, crazy. So I'm not too surprised that fans are feeling this way.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see what you guys think in the comment section down below. What would you have voted if you were a part of this survey? If you were a part of this survey, somehow let us know. But basically, it goes on to say more. Treliving deserves credit for trying a taskmaster coach. It's a weird way to word it. And rolling the dice on an efficient Stoller/Wall combo. When you look at last year's puzzling trade deadline acquisitions on a win now team and some of the last 2 years of free agency decisions, it's hard to think that the roster can get 100+ points blindfolded is being given its best chance for success. That's what one of the fans wrote in the survey. Basically, again, some interesting, weird ways to word these things, and that is from a fan. But essentially what it comes down to is that the Leafs have not had playoff success. Fans at this point obviously don't have much confidence, and most of the fans in this case will be Leafs fans, of course, but they don't have confidence in their front office. And again, it kind of makes sense. I have a little bit of confidence, and we also have to keep in mind here that Brad Treliving, this is his first real full year, second technical year of him being in the front office of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yeah, I was with the Flames in the past. That had a bit of a he kind of left them a bit of a disaster before he left to go to join the Leafs. But a bit of a different front office. Obviously, you have Shanahan, who stayed there. Now you have Keith Pelly, who's also kind of new. So the front office has been shuffling a little bit. But I think overall, I'm feeling okay. But it's hard to feel any confidence. And it's a bit worse than I thought regarding the fan reaction here. But at the end of the day, they haven't given fans a reason to be confident, and that's why the ranking is what it is. Even though I think they did a very, very good job this offseason, probably give it an A- or something like that. But any final thoughts on this before we move on to something a bit more positive for Leafs fans?
Yeah, I understand the fan reaction, right? I mean, I'm feeling it too. Like, I want them to win. I want them to win the Stanley Cup. But this whole thing, and I see it in the comments, and I see it online, especially this summer. I don't know if people are bored or what it is, but they're not going to miss the playoffs next year. I have a hard time believing that this is not
It's a
a
Darius
playoff,
guarantee.
right? So yeah, I'm laying it on the line right now. Like they're going to make the playoffs. I see all this stuff about them not getting even 100 points or anything like that. No, they're still going to be a great team. It's what they do in the playoffs, what they do after that, right? So it's going to be an interesting mix, right? Craig Berube, is the mentality going to switch, stuff like that. I'm more concerned about those things than them not making the playoffs or anything like that. They're going to make the playoffs. So I wouldn't be worried about that. But I do understand why fans are upset. We want to win a Stanley Cup. I get it, right? So the Leafs haven't delivered on that. They haven't even gotten close, honestly.
Yeah, not close at all. And bear with the wind there on Darius's mic as it's a bit windy outside. But let's dive into the second part now, Darius. And this is hopefully the wind holds off for the rest of this. But we're talking about Auston Matthews now. And next season is going to be a big season for the Toronto Maple Leafs, of course. And let's just dive into some history, and I'll let you take it over here in a second. But before we get into the exact history that he could be looking to make here, let's just take a minute and step back and look at Auston Matthews. The only players who have scored more goals than Auston Matthews up until before turning 27 are these players here. We're talking about Gretzky, Lemieux, Bossy, Yzerman, and Howardchuk. Darius, Matthews is in this list, this really, really good list. And I want to give it to you here. What is he looking to do next season?
Look, that list, great company, right? And next year, he's looking to become the Leafs' all-time leader in goals, which is ridiculous.
Crazy.
If all he has to do is score 52 goals, I believe it is, to tie the record, Matt Sundin's record, and he's only going to be 27. Absolutely ridiculous. This is going to be a very opinion-heavy video, but I think he's the greatest Leaf of all time already. All he needs is that Stanley Cup. In terms of regular season success, at least, I think he's the greatest Leaf of all time. The fact that he's about to break this record at just 27 years old. I mean, he scored almost 70 goals last year. He only needs 52 this year. So it's going to be fun to watch this year. Fun to watch him, climb to get that milestone so early, right? It's so crazy. And yeah, I think that's going to be so much fun for Leaf fans and a little bit of a distraction away from the playoff thing, at least the playoff success this year, which will be fun. But yeah, Auston Matthews, I think in my eyes, in terms of regular season success, he's already the greatest Leaf of all time. All he needs is that Stanley Cup and some playoff success. And I see it in the comments as well. A lot of people saying, he's not a team player, all these things, since they lost in the playoffs. I don't believe that. I think he wants to win more than anything in Toronto. I think he wants to win a Stanley Cup in Toronto because he knows how much that means. So I think that's, he has his eyes on that, right? He's going to break this record, and there's not much else for him to do in Toronto after that, and he's only 27. So it's going to be a fun season to watch him climb towards that record.
Yeah, let us know if you think that's a hot take from Darius. I think he's getting there as well. And again, I popped it up for a second. You look at his stats last season. I mean, unbelievable. Almost hit the 70-goal plateau there, but he was at 69. And I think, obviously this is a cool milestone. I care more about the team winning and team success, but I think they correlate hand in hand here. If next season he's going to need to have a 50-plus goal season, maybe even a 60-ish, maybe not 60, but a similar season to last year in the sense of, we'll say 50-plus goals if the Leafs want to compete, because he is kind of the heart and soul of their team. You see this here, like you mentioned, a regular season player. Cup by now will be nice. Who cares? Basically, I'm not going to read all this, but you can pause and read it. It's really hard to win in the playoffs, really hard to win a cup. But if the Toronto Maple Leafs want to have that next season, at least want to have, especially under Craig Berube, I'm curious to see how Auston Matthews plays under Craig Berube, because all the years he's been with Sheldon Keefe, he finally has a different coach. Now, whether that'll impact him positively, maybe we see a bit more of a defensive, not minded game from Auston Matthews, but maybe some more positive impact on that front, even though he was pretty decent last year, especially in his brief playoff stint that we had. I think it ultimately, yeah, these individual awards are nice, but I want to see the team win. But at the same time, they kind of go hand in hand in this case, because if Auston Matthews scores 30 goals, it would never happen. But if he scores 30 or 40 goals, the Leafs are in deep, deep trouble, especially given not the lack of goal scoring they have, but especially the lack of depth goal scoring that they have, at least at this current juncture of the team.
Yeah, and he set the standard for himself, I guess, at this point. We expect, 60 goals a year out of him now, right? Like, I think it's crazy, but that's the standard, I think. He's done it. It feels weird saying it, but he's done it twice already. So that does seem like the standard. And I think he's going to do it, as long as he's healthy and he's feeling good, obviously, I think he's going to do it again, because when he's going, like we saw last year, he's unstoppable. So I expect him to put up those numbers. And I think if he's going, the rest of the team will go. They'll follow the way. He's a leader by example. Right? Like, he's not actually the captain of this team, even though I think it might be time maybe after this season to finally give him the C, because it is his team, I think. But yeah, he leads by example. It doesn't matter if he even has a letter on his chest, right? He has the assistant captain, but he leads by example. And He's a great player in that way. So I think he's going to lead the way again this year. He's probably going to break that record. He is the heart and soul of this team, I think. Like, he's the heartbeat in a way, right? If he's going, the rest of the team's going. So it's going to be fun to watch this season.
Yeah, let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on all of that. A lot of stuff. And again, we keep inching closer and closer to the regular season to start. We get to see all these things hopefully come to fruition. But yeah, let us know in the comments down below, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.